All right, people, right here on this channel, I have made many videos on Spain, and I have another video for you from Spain. And no, it's not good news. I have said that Keir Starmer and Anthony Albanese are probably the worst prime ministers of their respective countries ever. But if I was to show you the most evil head of a state in the free world, then I'll have to point towards Pedro Sanchez of Spain. This president is a lefty, woke, socialist globalist. He's more concerned about illegal migrants from Africa and the Middle East than about his own people. As you guys know, just last month, this president legalized 500,000 illegal migrants, mostly from North Africa and Syria. What happened after that? 1 million more illegal migrants from Africa and the Middle East stormed into Spain. And then he sheepishly ran to the European Union and asked them, hey, please share the load, take some of these people. And who are these people? Many times I have played you videos of Spanish women getting assaulted, raped, brutalized, even Spanish men getting stabbed by these illegal migrants. And just like everywhere else in the free world, when you say something about it, these people shoot you down by labeling you racist and bigots. Let me play you this video so you understand how serious the situation is.
Women and girls are far less safe in Spain as a direct consequence of mass migration. For example, rapes have almost quadrupled since Pedro Sanchez took power. In 2017, there were 1,382 reported rapes, and last year there were 5,363. This is an increase of 288%. Just to give you an example, is 15 women raped per day, and these are the ones we know of.
And by who? I don't need to tell you that. You know it.
Spain has dropped 20 spots from the 5th spot to the 25th in the International Women's Safety and Security Ranking since 2018. We are falling behind countries like Estonia, Singapore, or the Emirates. From all the police detention, for example, in the Basque Country, 64% are foreigners. 33% of all our prisoners in Spanish jails are foreigners. And of those, 30% come from Morocco. In regions like Madrid, Catalonia, and the Basque Country, around 50% of prisoners are foreigners. And overall, 56% of prisoners under 22 years old are foreigners. So it is safe to say that there is a clear link between mass immigration and violence. And it is safe to say that certain countries and certain cultures have proven to be more violent. 1,382 reported rapes, and last year there were 5,360.
So it jumped from 1,300 rapes a year to over 5,000. And it's the usual suspects. It's the same happening everywhere. It's the same thing has happened in Germany, France, Britain, you name it. Sweden. Sweden, once the bastion of feminism and women's safety, is now the rape capital of Europe. So those were some hardcore numbers, yeah? 5,000 women getting raped every year since 2017, or at least last year. In 2025, nearly 5,500 women got raped, 60 to 70% of them at the hands of foreigners. So these are numbers, yeah? When we talk about statistics, it's good to understand the scale of the problem by looking at the statistics, but you lose the human element unless you put a face to that story. Now let's get to today's story. Let me show you the story of a young woman who was brutally gang raped in a care home at the hands of migrants. I'll let her tell you her story. The original video was in Spanish. It's been translated into English using AI. I'll include the link to the original video in the description.
My name is Noel Castillo Ramos. I am 25 years old, and, well, I still have some time left. I have 4 days left. You know, 4 days to go, 4 days more to go, 4 days left, eh? Basically, it's because back when I was 26, they were all—
She said 24. So she's 25 years old now. She was 24.
Basically, it's because back when I was 26, they were already doing that same thing to me for that reason.
Have you ever doubted showing up for the process?
I had it very clearly from the very start.
For 20 months, he fought to get it by the age of 24. No, he had already asked for euthanasia after becoming paraplegic while attempting suicide from the 5th floor. His mother never wanted him.
No, we do not agree with her, but we are clearly standing with her.
But I always respect him.
I really do not want her. No, I don't want her to be revived. I don't want her to live. But well, then I am going to respect it. Everything, then.
His father...
The mother is saying that I don't want her to die, but I'm going to support her decision of voluntary euthanasia because she's going to keep harming herself.
His father never accepted him, and it paralyzed him again and again. His wish to die with proper dignity went straight through the Supreme Constitutional Court and even reached the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg on August 2nd when his death was scheduled.
They keep saying his, it obviously is her.
But she was paralyzed. Theirs was the very first trial in Spain for the right to a dignified death. Today, after months of court battles, Elia has not achieved it.
The Strasbourg court refuses to halt Noelia's euthanasia because of paraplegia.
There is a green light for his euthanasia.
I'm Noelia Castillo Ramos. I'm 25 years old and, well, there remains for me a little left in my life at this moment. You know now. I still have 4 days left to go.
This is the case. We'll keep listening now. We will hear parts of the interview where he does not tell her how she has felt misunderstood by those closest to her. Not by the people on the street. No, not by her own people.
None of my family members are in favor of Asia, obviously, because...
Euthanasia.
It is. I am another cornerstone of the family, one that we all lean on. No, I am leaving this place now, right now, and all of you are here, gathered close, bearing every last bit of pain, together for now. But I keep thinking about all the pain I have suffered across so many years, that I have endured over the long years. I simply want to depart now, here, and to leave behind all pain, to finally live in peace and cease suffering, for all of us to understand. And that the happiness of a father or a mother or a sister does not have to come first for anyone else. The happiness of a daughter, or the sadness that sometimes fills her days. The good life of a daughter, right?
Sorry about the bad quality of the translation, but those of you who didn't follow. So this young woman at the age of 24 decided to end her life. It wasn't initially granted. So she went through many courts and eventually she was given a green light. So this interview was filmed nearly 5 days ago and went viral online. That's what she was saying, that she's got 4 days to live and she will be given voluntary euthanasia. Since then, when the story broke out online, people obviously started condemning Pedro Sanchez. You might be thinking, what does Pedro Sanchez has got to do with this? So let me tell you what actually happened to this woman. Why did she jump from the 5th story window? Well, because when she was in a care home, she was brutally gang raped by a bunch of migrants. Remember the earlier stats that Spanish woman was telling us about? Back in 2017, 1,300 women used to be raped, which was a pretty horrific number in and of itself. But then when Pedro Sanchez came, he opened the floodgates to illegal migrants coming from third world countries where they have totally different views towards women. The number of rapes went from 1,300 in 2017 to 5,300 in 2025, thanks to Pedro Sanchez's policies. Noelia was one of those 5,300 women. That's why she decided to end her life. And when she failed, rights organizations started asking for a dignified way of going. Now, I am not against voluntary euthanasia, okay? I am not, but I obviously have some strict conditions. I don't say that someone is just depressed and then you should let them. As a society, we should do everything in our power to cure someone's disease. Now, have a look at this. This should never happen. So a friend of Noelia wanted to go and see her and say goodbye, or maybe try to talk her out of it. But the doctors did not allow her to see her because she might change her mind. This is the same problem that I had with gender transition surgeries as well. Our first and foremost priority should be trying to talk these people out of it. Find every other solution to create a pathway to normality. But no, these woke lefties don't do that. What they say, we have to stick to this. Oh, you're not a boy, you're a girl. You want to have a surgery? We'll help you. You can't talk to anyone else because they might talk you out of it. That should always be the point. And it's the same with voluntary euthanasia too. And I'll tell you why, because I understand, I can see a lot of you Christians getting angry with me saying, why are you in support of voluntary euthanasia? I'll tell you in a moment. But if someone can talk them out of suicide, we should do that, because once you die, there's no coming back. My ex-partner's mother was diagnosed with ALS, the same disease Stephen Hawking had. And she was given 2 years to live, and she gradually deteriorated. This was a very healthy woman at 68 or 69, I think, when she was diagnosed. And we saw her wither away. We saw her lose all her weight. And by the end, she couldn't even be fed. She had to be fed through a tube. This is 2017, I believe. And back then in Victoria, we had a premier who was against voluntary euthanasia. And guess what? Later, his father died a very agonizing death, and he changed his opinion on that. Because when there is no way out, this is not for depression, when you know that you're going to be dead and you're going to be in extreme pain and you're not going to have... By the way, this lady, she was an Irish lady. She migrated from Ireland to Australia back in the 70s. An amazing woman. She was a nurse, so she always looked after people. She never became a burden on anyone. But towards the end, she had 4 kids. So all of her 4 kids looked after her at my house, because we had the biggest house. All the siblings, they took turns. They looked after their mother, 2 sons, 2 daughters. But they saw their mother was withering away. And she even thought about going to Switzerland to end her life. But she became too weak. It just couldn't happen. What do I mean by that? Someone has to wipe your bum. And a mother who has lived an independent life all her life does not want to go through that process, okay? So she went through that, and I became convinced at that point that she has a right to go on her own terms. She had sorted out everything. She had settled her financial affairs and everything. Everything was done. She had prepared herself that it was time for her to go. She had said goodbye to her kids and family and loved ones, but she wouldn't die. And then by the end, she was under a lot of morphine. And by the end, she was in palliative care. I think she should have been allowed to go 6 months prior. That's why I am in favor of voluntary euthanasia. Not like this, though. This shouldn't even have happened in the first place. If Pedro Sanchez hadn't been handing out Spanish citizenships like candy, this wouldn't have happened. So this woman is Noelia's friend, and she wants to see her, but the doctors won't let her see her because they're saying, no, you might talk her out of it.
El día de mañana podría ser nuestra hija, ¿sabes? Quiero decir, pero un mensaje de que la queremos. Llevo una hora en coche con... No, Noelia, a lo mejor salvas una vida. No te pones eso de coche cuando la cambiaron. Yo perdí su todo, perdí todo con ella, no sabía nada de ella. Necesito verla, yo también tengo a mi niña igual. Por favor.
This has happened because this woke socialist globalist president thinks that all people are equal. All cultures are the same. If you want to know whether your leader is working in your best interests, then have a look at who is admiring him. Now, this is according to Spain's media outlet, The Objective. It is saying Algeria rewards Spain with 12% more cheap gas for its position in the Middle East. So he's being admired by Muslim countries, by Islamists. And what has Spain done? Spain has said, no, we're not going to take part in toppling the Islamic terrorist regime of Iran. That tells you who is admiring those people. It reminds me of Imam Tawhidi. Imam Tawhidi said that when he was a radical Muslim, he always used to vote left, because he knew it's the lefties who cover for the Islamists. That's actually so true. Why is it that all these Islamists, radical or moderate, they always vote left? And when they get an opportunity to kick them out, they do. That's as it is happening in Birmingham right now. Birmingham has been a stronghold for Labour. I think 60% Muslim. And now they're standing their own candidates, Islamist candidates, Even one of them is even a former terrorist, convicted terrorist, Shahid Bhatti or Shahid Khan or whatever his name is. This is what's happening, guys. These people are on the side of our civilizational enemies, okay? The Islamic regime of Iran, these North Africans, these Middle Eastern, they obviously have anti-West policies. They don't like the West. They want to see the West to fall. And who's helping them? People like Pedro Sanchez. That's why I said he is probably the most evil head of a state in the free world. He's pathetic. So Noelia was forced to end her life prematurely because she was gang raped by men from hostile cultures that Pedro Sanchez welcomed with open arms.